I am sitting in my corner office on the 22nd floor looking out at the Austin skyline. The city glows beneath me, a reminder of everything I have built. My phone buzzes on the desk. Mom flashes across the screen. I do not answer. This is the 47th call this month that I have declined from her. You might wonder what kind of son ignores his own mother. But to understand that you need to travel back 12 years with me when I was just 20 years old with $73 in my pocket. Before we begin this story, let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. If you believe that real family is about loyalty and love, not just blood, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Now let me take you back to where it all began, when I learned that sometimes the people who should love you the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest. I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, in a small house that always felt smaller because of the tension inside it. My father, Gary, worked as a plumber. He was good with pipes but terrible with emotions. Most evenings he came home smelling like whiskey, his mood as unpredictable as the weather. My mother, Linda, stayed home to raise us kids. She had a way of making me feel invisible while showering attention on my older siblings. My brother Derek was 8 years older than me. He was the golden child, the one my parents pinned all their hopes on. They saved every spare dollar to send him to college, talking about him like he was destined for greatness. My sister Patricia was 5 years older than me. She was my mother's favorite, the daughter who could do no wrong. They would spend hours together, shopping, cooking, talking about things that never included me. And then there was me. Ronald. The accident. I learned that word early because I heard my parents use it when they thought I was not listening. My mother told a neighbor once that they had not planned for a third child, that I came along when they were already stretched too thin. She said it casually, like she was discussing an unexpected bill rather than her own son. Growing up, I wore Derek's hand-me-downs, jeans with patches on the knees, shirts with faded logos of bands I had never heard of. While Derek and Patricia got new clothes for school each year, I got whatever still fit from the boxes in the garage. I told myself it did not matter. But it did. Birthdays were the hardest. Derek's 18th birthday was a big party, with 20 guests and a cake from the fancy bakery downtown. Patricia got a surprise party for her 16th with decorations my mother had spent weeks preparing. My birthdays were afterthoughts. One year my mother forgot entirely until my father mentioned it at dinner. She apologized and promised to make it up to me. She never did. When Derek turned 17, my parents bought him a used Honda so he could drive to school and his part-time job. When Patricia turned 17, she got a Chevy that my mother found at a good price. When I turned 17, I got nothing. I walked 3 miles to school every day, rain or shine, while my siblings drove past me without stopping. Once I asked my father if I could use Derek's old car since Derek had moved out by then. He looked at me like I had asked for the moon. "We sold that car, Ronald," he said. "We needed the money." There is one sentence my father said that I have never forgotten. I was 19, working double shifts at a pizza place, trying to save money for community college. I asked him if they could help me with tuition, even just a little. He put down his beer and looked at me with tired eyes. "You were never part of the plan, Ronald," he said. "We did what we could." My mother was standing in the kitchen doorway. She heard everything. She said nothing. I waited for her to defend me, to say something, anything that would make me feel like I belonged in this family. Instead, she turned back to the dishes and told me I was being too sensitive. The day I turned 20, I made a decision. I had been working for 2 years after high school, saving what little I could while living in the cramped room I had always occupied. One evening, my father came home in a particularly foul mood. He had been drinking more than usual. He stood in my doorway and told me it was time to go. "You are 20 now," he said, "old enough to figure things out on your own. I need your room for storage." I looked at my mother, who was standing behind him. She did not meet my eyes. I waited for Derek or Patricia to say something, to offer me their couch, their spare room, anything. Derek had an apartment across town. Patricia had just gotten married and moved into a house with her husband. Neither of them reached out. I packed everything I owned into a single backpack. $73. That is what I had saved after paying for my share of groceries and utilities, which my parents had started charging me at 18. I stood at the front door hoping someone would stop me, would tell me they did not mean it, would show me that I mattered. No one did. My mother's last words to me that night were simple and cold. "Your brother and sister have their own lives," she said. "You need to figure things out yourself." I walked out into the October evening and made a promise to myself. I would never ask anyone in that house for anything ever again. I hitchhiked south. I did not have a destination in mind, just a direction. Away. A truck driver dropped me off in Austin, Texas, told me it was a city full of opportunity. At that moment, standing on a street corner with my backpack and $73 opportunity felt like a cruel joke. The first 3 months were the hardest of my life. I slept wherever I could find shelter. Bus stations. Park benches. Once behind a dumpster when it rained so hard I thought I might drown. I took every job I could find. Day labor. Dishwashing. Holding signs on street corners for businesses that paid cash at the end of the day. Eventually I saved $400 and bought the ugliest car you have ever seen. A 1989 Ford Taurus with rust eating through the doors and a passenger seat that smelled like mildew. But it had a roof, and that roof became my home for the next 8 months. I found steadier work at a coffee shop called Morning Grind. The owner was a man named Marcus, a 50-something guy with gray hair and kind eyes. He noticed that I was always the first one there, and the last one to leave. One day he asked me where I lived. I hesitated, then told him the truth. "I live in my car in your parking lot." Marcus did not judge me. He did not preach at me or make me feel small. Instead, he made me an offer. There was a small room in the basement of the shop, barely bigger than a closet, with a cot and a space heater. He said I could stay there, rent-free, if I helped clean up after closing each night. I accepted before he finished the sentence. That basement became my sanctuary. After my shifts, I would sit on that cot with a borrowed laptop and teach myself to code. Free courses online. YouTube tutorials. Forums where strangers answered my questions without knowing I was a homeless kid trying to change his life. I studied until 2 or 3 in the morning, then woke up at 6 to open the shop. 2 years passed. I got better at coding. Good enough to land an interview at a small tech company downtown. I showed up in a button-down shirt I bought at a thrift store, and shoes with holes I had covered with black marker. The interviewer asked about my education. I told him I did not have a degree, but I had built 3 apps on my own and could solve any problem he put in front of me. He gave me a coding test. I finished it in half the time he expected. I got the job. Junior developer. The salary was $42,000 a year. It was more money than I had ever imagined having. I cried in my car after the interview, that same rusty Ford Taurus that had been my home, my shelter, my proof that I could survive anything. For the next 3 years I worked like my life depended on it, because in many ways it did. I arrived early. I stayed late. I volunteered for projects no one else wanted. I learned everything I could from anyone willing to teach me. When I was 25, I noticed something. Every company I worked with had the same problem. Their data was scattered across dozens of systems that did not talk to each other. Information got lost. Decisions got delayed. Money got wasted. I started sketching ideas for software that could fix this, that could pull data from anywhere and organize it automatically. I shared my ideas with a coworker named Nathan. He was a few years older than me, a brilliant programmer with experience I lacked. He saw the potential immediately. Within a month, we decided to start a company together. DataSync Solutions was born in a garage I rented for $600 a month. We had 2 desks, 2 laptops, and a whiteboard covered in diagrams only we understood. For the first 2 years, we paid ourselves nothing. We lived on savings and credit cards and stubborn hope. 3 times we came within weeks of running out of money completely. 3 times something saved us. A small contract, a freelance gig, a client who paid early. In our 3rd year, everything changed. We landed a contract with a logistics company that needed exactly what we had built. They paid us $200,000. Suddenly we could hire employees, rent a real office, pay ourselves actual salaries. By year 5, DataSync had 45 employees and $8 million in annual revenue. By year 7, when I was 32 years old, the company was valued at $50 million. I owned 60% of it. I had done it. The kid who slept in his car, who ate day-old pastries from the coffee shop dumpster, who was told he was never part of the plan, had built something real, something valuable, something entirely his own. And in all those 12 years, not once did my family reach out. Not a call on my birthday. Not a text when I launched the company. Not a single word of curiosity about whether I was alive or dead, until the money came. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon.